Okay, I think everyone's in now. So morning everyone. My name's Alice. I am the assessor at Silvalea. So welcome to our training session today. Just a couple of little things before we start. If everyone could mute themselves and turn their cameras off, we're going to attempt to, well, we are recording the session. So then at least if anyone can't attend, we can send it out afterwards, but we need everyone's cameras muted to record. There is also the messenger, the chat box. If you've got any questions, just pop them in there. I'll try and answer them throughout the session. But if there's anything more complex or needed to show on the sling, then Amanda will go through it when she gives options for questions. So we've got James, who is our hoist expert at Silverlea. So he's going to talk through with hoists in a second, but presenting the training, we've got Amanda Jenkins and Judith. So yes, that's everything. But I hope you all enjoy the session, and James, you can take it from here.
Thank you, Alice. Good morning, all. So, a brief overview before you get started with Mandy and the sling session. The hoist you can see is on a gantry. This is manufactured by our parent company, Silvalea. And this particular model is a Monarch hoist. It is 200, this particular one has a 200 kilogram safe working load, and it's a manual traverse, so it's purely two function, which seems to be the way the market is going. We offer this as a four function, so obviously you're powered lift and lower, which is what Mandy's showing you. But as I say, we can offer this as a powered left and right as well. This particular one, as I say, is a manual left and right. Okay. We offer up to 272 kilograms safe working load before we hit the bariatric hoists. So we do a 130, 200 and a 272 in our standard range. Looking at the spreader bar, which is what Mandy's holding, this particular one is an adult size spreader bar. We can offer this as a pediatric size, so narrower. The grey clips on the ends are what we call our sure clip. This is a clip facility system that, excuse me, when you fasten your sling loop onto it, you need to lift this up to disengage the grey tab. This is a fail-safe system, if you like. So as opposed to just pushing the loop on, we actually take the time to lift that up, attach the loop, and it's then securely fastened into place. So that's pretty much one of our USPs and a patented system. While you've got hold of that, Mandy, we might as well quickly run through the portable. So as well as the fixed, which we're using for the session today, we do offer portable hoists. So these come in two different safe working loads, 130 and 200. So the handset is hanging down on the coily cable. We have the standard carabiner and the lifting strap. These generally will be used as a temporary measure to possibly attach to a gantry system. We can also attach them to, let's say, where there's a number of track hoists in a property, but to save on cost, you just want to use one hoist and share between the rooms. So that portable comes into play then. Thanks, Mandy. You can pop that down. Incidentally, that's very light in weight. That's just 5 kilograms total weight. Helping the weight in our hoist is the fact that we use a lithium-ion battery. So this is a lighter weight battery with an extended life as opposed to the conventional lead-acid batteries. Going back to spreader bars, we can offer 4-point spreader bar. We can offer that in adult and in pediatric. So different track configurations we can offer as well, being your standard XY, turntable, suspended, wall-to-wall, etc., etc. So we tick all the boxes. Okay, I think that's enough of a brief intro. And I'd say any questions we have, you zap those through to Alice towards the end of the session, and we'll happily follow up on those for you. Okay, Mandy and Jude, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks very much, James.
Thank you. You're
And good
welcome.
morning from us, and a very warm welcome, and thank you for joining this session. Just to outline the session, it's all about understanding standard sling shapes. So I've been with Silvalea for 22 years, and during that time I've learned a great deal about sling designs and their suitability. So hopefully I can share some of those tips with you today by explaining the sling shapes and basically taking the mystery out of the slings. So hopefully you've had a little poster which shows the slings drawings. I don't know if Alice, you can kindly just pull up the poster for me so that I can just explain what it looks like and what we're going to cover this morning. So sling shapes vary. Every company will have a version of one of these 6 shapes. They may call them different things, but each of them has a different fitting and their suitability is slightly different. So I'm going to cover their suitability and also talk about the limitations for each style. So with a bit of luck, it might then help you when you're choosing a suitable style for your patient. We call them families. So every style is a family. And then, you know, as long as you get used to that shape, then you can transfer that knowledge to your scenarios. So we'll look at them individually. We're looking at standard shapes today. I'll talk about different standard fabrics, things you can add on to the standard to make it a bit more special, like the head supports, the waist supports, etc. And talk about the features. So that's basically what we're going to cover. If you haven't got this poster, we will ensure you have it at the end. But it's quite a useful prompt to print out, just so you can see at a glance the sling shape. So thanks, Alice, if you come back.
This
So
is
just
attached to
also,
the invite, Mandy, so everyone should have it. But if there's any issues, just let me know.
brilliant. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. So also to point out, we are not moving and handling advisors. We're not going to do tips on application and things like that, but we're just product specialists. So we will be showing you the products in full. Also, of course, I've got an able-bodied model who makes it look easy, and we know that's not the case. I'm going to use an open chair just for ease of viewing and application today. So just to point that out. So we'll start off by just looking at a sling. Standard polyester fabric. So standard slings are made in polyester. Polyester is robust. It's hard wearing. So it's very popular for slings in general. The standard sizes from triple extra small to extra extra large will have a safe working load of 220 or 35 stone. So you can be reassured that this will take that weight. The sling has a woven label. So woven labels these days last longer. They don't tend to fade, which is really important because you must be able to read the safety instructions on the label to conform to the loader regulations. So if you've got a sling that you can't read those instructions, you should withdraw it from use. Always check it before each use to make sure it's clear. But on the Silvalea version, you will have a clear description of the sling, the code, the safe working load, any safety information, washing instructions. So standards will wash up very high, so 85 degrees, and they can be tumble dried at a low heat. Some more specialized fabrics, it will change. So it is always worth checking before each use if you're going to be doing laundering. But so lots of really good information on there. In addition, we have got a woven size label. Generally across the industry, the sizing is the same for small, medium and large. I think extra small and below can be slightly different, but small is red, medium is yellow, and large is green. We have a colour-coded handle also as a quick visual to see what size it is to help. The other label is a serial number label, unique serial number for traceability. and a date of manufacture. On the back, there's a little section that you can write a name on, things like that. But useful information, the sling is very well constructed to reassure you of its suitability. It's everything, all the components on this sling, the binding, the webbing, the way the tapes are stitched on, the threads used, the stitches per inch, everything's calibrated to ensure that you can have confidence in this product. So that's just generally about the sling itself. The standard slings will have handles on, guide handles, which will help with positioning. Some slings, more specialized ones won't, because we try to avoid extra pressure and things like that. Can I just ask Catherine Fish, if you can turn your camera off, please? Be very grateful. Thank you. So that's the first sling. We're going to talk about this. This is the fast fit. So if we look at the shape, you've got your poster, a very standard shape sling, very well known within the industry. We call it a fast fit sling. You may know it as a quick fit, easy fit, general purpose, universal, lots of names for this shape. But if we put it on, Judith, we can show you how it looks so that we can see. Now, as I said, we're going to use this open chair, and Judith is going to be very helpful. But it's a divided leg sling. It can be applied in a chair because we can get it down the back. And the important thing is to get it to the base of spine, down to the base of spine. Don't worry about trying to line up the shoulder section. That will sort itself out as we hoist. The important thing is that you get it down to the base, and the leg sections come around the bottom to keep that section supported. These have padding to the legs, which is more comfortable and also keeps the legs open, and they don't ruck up so much. Some slings are provided without padding, but I would say that, for comfort, you need a little bit of padding to the leg sections. So we pull the legs through, and then generally we cross them. Now, if we cross the legs, it keeps them together. If we don't cross them, naturally the legs are going to splay, and then we have potential to slip through. So the aperture is enlarged there. It depends on the individual, but the standard way of application is to cross the legs. So I'm just going to bring in the hoist, and we'll just hook it up, and we'll see how it looks on Judith. Color-coded loops, there's a selection, and this will give you options of the pickup, but the general rule is to start with a short shoulder, long leg. And it will vary as we go through the session. On this one, I'm using the second shoulder, and that's because the style is generous. This type of hoist, I don't want Judith to be too low down. So we know that we've chosen and we've worked out the second shoulder pickup is more suitable. It's all about working out. It's like a jigsaw, really. Once you've found the suitable style, you can pick the fabric, make sure you understand the application, the right loops. And it's important not to go too far before you just check it. Check that you haven't got the chair caught up. Things can get caught up. We often do that, but just need to double check, make sure that everything's attached before the hoist takes up the slack completely. So I'll just turn it around so we can see. It's a full body sling. It's going to support Judith fully in the body. It's quite a deep back. The base of spine, it fits here, and there's enough access there if you did need to do toileting transfer, although you would still have to remove clothing. So it doesn't allow you to get access to clothing very easily, but it will give enough of an aperture for a hygiene transfer. Good full body support, very standard. I would say it's a universal shape sling. use it universally for general, straightforward, compliant situations. It's probably the first full body sling that's tried because it's so well known. It's quite simple. It comes through the legs. It'll give support to the leg section. Make sure it's towards the knee. If it's further back, then it will bite in and won't give enough support. So that's when it's really important to bring it down and around the bottom there. So very straightforward, standard situation. I would say if you've got someone that's more active and has lots of movement, extends, Judith can be active, it will shoot up into their groin. So, you know, think about that scenario. I would say it's probably not so supportive, not so comfortable, but think about this as a straightforward, standard situation. The other thing that can happen is as the leg sections come around, and they come around under the leg up to the hoist, you can get some slight external rotation to the hip. So if you're dealing with anyone that's got painful joints, arthritis, osteoporosis, anything like that, infantile arthritis, that can just subtly cause discomfort. So as this, hopefully you can picture the leg pulling through, it just pulls through and slightly externally rotates. So, you know, think about that. I would say if someone's not comfortable, it's painful, then we need to look at the style, because it may be that it's the wrong shape. But general standard transfer, this is absolutely fine. So looking at the sling, what can we add on? So we can add on a head support, a chest strap or a waist strap, which I will show you. We've got the same shape. This is a mesh version. So the mesh version it's got holes in. Hopefully you can see that. I'll try and come a bit closer. The mesh will then allow water to drain. So if you need it for bathing, then a mesh fabric would be probably preferred. Although people do still use the polyester, but it may pull the water a bit more. But this one I've got with a head support. So the head support is arched. It has removable bones in that can be taken out. And it has a head support tape. I will just put this around you so we can picture that. So it works the same. Got the same fit, same pickup, but with a head support. The head support is on a slider. It feeds through the shoulder tape and adjusts back through the slider to get the positioning. So if we need to extend it, then we can just loosen it off. So quite straightforward. Apply as the same and then just hook up, thread through the head support tape through there. The bones can be taken out. So often people take them out because they're too firm, they're too rigid. So with the head support tape, it will support the head without bones, but the option is there if you need extra support. So that's the head support option, thank you. And the mesh. The other thing you can have is the addition of chest strap. And they're usually fitted in with the sling, but it looks like this. And it will feed around to support maybe at the chest or under the bust or at the waist. Positioning depends on where you would like it. People sometimes pick a lower one if there's a peg or a higher one. It really is down to the individual situation, but the weight can be added to all the standard slings. So that's the fast fit. I will just also show you a different way of applying it. And just to point out also, this is a wide spreader bar, although it's an adult wide spreader bar. Julia's quite tiny and she probably would benefit from the pediatric one. So, you know, the hoists are really important to make sure you've got the right width. Certainly if you're looking at someone that's got painful joints, you don't want to sort of enclose them too much. So a wider spreader bar is better to take the tapes out, and that will prevent protraction and discomfort. So it is really important to check for specific scenarios that you have got a suitable width on the spreader bar, because the success is a combination basically. So we just need to make you aware that you need to look at both. I'm just going to take Judith down a moment and just show you that the legs can be applied slightly differently in this style, which can sometimes be needed, and that's by hammocking them. So they're laid on top of each other in a seat pickup. So if you can picture that they'd be picked up like that. More open, more vulnerable. So thinking about when you're risk assessing for a sling, would this be appropriate? The sling's capable of picking somebody up like this, but you wouldn't do it if you've got someone active or has got some movement, because they are vulnerable then of falling or tipping forward. But if you've got a very compliant situation, lady in a dress or a skirt that doesn't like the divided leg pickup, then it can be a possible application. Slightly recline a little bit so you're not too upright. Think about maybe adding a chest strap just for extra security, but it's perfectly possible to do that type of pickup. So hopefully that is told you about this style. So the fast fit shape, universal shape, and all the features on that. I'll just check with Alice, make sure that we've covered any questions that you've raised regarding this style. Anything,
No
Alice?
questions regarding this. No questions regarding the fast fit or anything like that. We've just got a question about spreader bars, which James has sorted.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. So the next style, if you have your poster, Judy, if you could just hold that, please. And we're going to look at the Fast Fit Deluxe. So Fast Fit Deluxe or Quick Fit Deluxe, hammock, lots of names for this one as well, is a different shape. It's quite square and it's generous. So it's a square, generous shape with different types of legs. Hopefully you can see the difference between you. I must actually apologise that we're in a temporary room as well. So we're trying to cope with quite confined area. We're moving into a new studio soon, which will mean we'll have lots more space. But so apologies if it looks a bit swashed. But yes, so we can see the Fast Fit Deluxe, the one I'm holding up, is a different leg principle. So it applies slightly differently. And I'll put that on. It's still a divided leg sling. So we can put it on, thanks Jude, in a chair. I mean, of course, you know, slings can be applied on the bed as well. As I said, because we're in a temporary room, we're struggling with a bed space for a bed. So we're having to do it all on the chair. But same application, get it down to the base of spine and bring the leg sections through. They're padded, and these wrap around the femur. So wrap fully around the femur, and then we've got this modesty strap, this red modesty strap where you feed the opposite leg through that connects them together. So that's the first thing that we need to do. And then there's an outside tape that then feeds through the inner one. Bit more fiddly, but it will actually give a much more comfort because you've got full femur support from those leg paddles, and the leg tapes are picking up from the outside of the leg. So thinking about the first one where it came through the leg, we're now getting more support to the hip area because the tapes are positioned on the outside. So it's, although it's a bit more fiddly to put on, it will give more comfort. So we just put this on. Again, we're going to just short shoulder long. This one is short shoulder long leg. I had a question recently about whether you have to put all the same colour on. So, you know, all the red, on all tapes, but that would give a very strange pickup. So it really is working it out. So you have to work out the right positioning. The colours are there for a visual reference to check. But once you've worked out the correct positioning, document it, and then you've got consistent pickup positions from all carers. Okay, seem to be a bit cockeyed there. You all right? So still a full body, still supporting fully. It is more generous, the shape, because it's a square shaped sling, there's more of it. But if we can see from the side, we've now got full support to the femur. Still full body back support, and still access for toileting. So there is still enough access if you need to do a hygiene transfer, but clothing would have to have been removed. But like I said, the pickup is from the outside. So if Junica was a little bit wriggly, you've got individual control from those leg paddles, which is really important. And also it's going to be more supportive to the hip area. So, you know, much slightly different, but in many ways better supportive style. It's very well known. So fast fit, quick fit. The leg sections will allow you to hammock the legs because it's so square. So again, I'll show you that in a moment, but certainly used often for long limb amputees because of the paddle to the leg. You know, long limb amputations are fine. So thinking about an amputee, knee and below, then standard styles will probably be, you know, usable. When the stumps get shorter, then we need to look at something a bit more specialised or more supportive, because if you've got quite a short residual leg there, then there's no weight. So consequently, the stump may rise up, and the potential is that it can slip back through the aperture. So just think about the long limb amputations for standard slings. Certainly in this style, you can see how it would nestle within this leg paddle. Again, we can add the head support on, the waist support, so things can be added on. Let me just show you how it looks hammocking. I just saw a question about whether this can be left in place. We're looking at this session is to do with all standard slings. So none of these slings that we're looking at today are designed to be left in place for any length of time, because the fabrics haven't been, they're not carefully chosen like the ones that we have for in situ use. So these are just standard slings, do the transfer and then take them out. But if we look at the leg section, the leg sections on this, because they're very square, they hammock really well. So if we can just see, take that underneath. So what you do is you lay them on top of each other, and then you take the longer leg tape through the shorter one to cause to link them together in order to create that hammock pickup. So again, if you're going to do this, think about whether anyone's vulnerable, and then just slightly recline. So that's possible. So just remember that, you know, you are very vulnerable with this position, and it will close the aperture up. But again, if you've got someone that wears a dress or a skirt, then it's also being used for amputees as well in this position. Think about that though, you know, you're going to close the legs together. That's going to cause a problem because they will get squashed together in this position more than they would when they're divided. So, you know, you've got to think about weighing it all up just to work it all out. So that is the Fast Fit Deluxe. I'll just check with Alice that we've answered all the questions on this style before we move on.
Yep, I think everything's been answered.
Excellent, thank you. So the next style we're going to look at is the Universal Deluxe. If you can just hold that, Jude. So the Universal Deluxe, is it a deluxe leg? So this is a deluxe leg, the Fast Fit Deluxe. The Universal Deluxe has the same principle of leg, but it is slightly more shaped, more angled, wraps around the hips better, less bulky. So you've got the angle of the leg there compared to this one. It's not so square. So this one doesn't hammock So that's the difference. This one, because the legs are slightly different, they're not so big, they're very angled, they won't hammock. I'm not saying they won't, but we don't encourage it because they're too small. But it's still a divided leg sling. We still can apply easily in the chair. The leg sections are padded. They come around the hips well because of the angle. This one has got slightly different modesty. This red modesty is a loop here that connects the legs together like that. It's much neater. And then the outside long tape feeds through. Got an additional tape you may have noticed. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I'll just tuck that away. Look at that in a minute. But we'll just put it on. This style, sizing is always an issue. We've got some really good sizing guides that will help you on the website of the slings sizes and also the body dimensions. So that should help. This style is skimpier. So it's a skimpier style, more shaped. So Judith's tiny and normally a small is fine, but I've actually got a medium for her on this one because it is a much, more tailored shaped sling. Going on yellow? Yeah. So we've had to change the sizing, which is always a little bit of can be confusing. So often if you're changing styles, think about you may not always be in the same size. So again, we'll just take it up. We'll just check we've not got anything caught up. So it's a neat shape sling. There's not so much fabric like the previous one. It's got really good paddles. The really supportive leg supports there. Like the Fast Fit Deluxe, the previous one, suitable for long limb amputees. Suitable for wrigglers. Again, you've got individual control of those leg paddles because they're supporting the legs individually. Access, small aperture access if you need to do a hygiene transfer. But what I've done with this one is I've added a hip tape. So hip tapes are additional. They can be detachable, so they can be unhooked. Just unhook one to show you. They're on a slider. So the slider you alter to the required position, and then there could be a D-ring, or on this one it's got a plastic tab. Push that out the way, and then you hook up the loop. But the purpose is, I'll just slot that on. It knots on itself like that. So hip tapes are really useful to help with weight distribution. So if you've got someone that's really got very painful joints and they're sinking, if you add a tape at the hip, it will lift the hip area. It makes a massive difference to just supporting that area, and it will take pressure from behind the knee and distribute the weight. So when you're problem solving, it's good to think about adding a hip tape, and they work really well on this style. Also, if you've got someone that's slightly asymmetrical and you want to try and get them into a better transferring position, you can adjust the tapes asymmetrically. So think about even your loops. If you've got someone that's hanging out like this and you're trying to keep them in, think about adjusting the tapes. It's absolutely fine. As long as you've risk assessed, then you can be inventive. And certainly, the sling's capable of doing that. But the legs need to pick up. The idea is these hip tapes need to be set and put on. I'd have to lower Judith down just to get the tension, but you need to ensure that they're adjusted to pick up at the same time as the leg, so simultaneously. If they're too tight, it's going to force the hips forward. If they're too loose, you're not going to benefit from them. So, just adjust using the slider there to give that support. I think this is one of my favourite styles. Certainly it's a go-to style that I know over the years has worked really well, is really popular, and sort of meets the needs of a lot of situations. So, you know, if you think about, you'll all have go-to styles, and this has always been my go-to style because I know it's comfortable, and it's been very successful. And we do this version in a leave-in fabric, which if you are interested in the in situ session, then we're going to do that next month. But as I said, it's just standards today. So a really, really good style. Again, think about, we can add on the head supports, the chest strap, the waist support, hip tapes, as I mentioned. It can be in mesh for bathing. So all these options with the standard style. Let me check then, see if there's any questions we have not addressed with this one. Alice, if you can just let me know.
No, we're all good with this one.
Excellent, right. So we've seen 3 styles now. We're doing well. We'll just do this down. So the 3 styles we've seen are all been full body slings. So they've given full support for someone that has needed extra support because their tone is diminished, or they need the sling to help support them. If they have got reasonable to good upper body tone and they need a toileting type sling, then we have got a toileting sling. Toileting, access, hygiene, dressing, called lots of things. But if you look at this compared to the first 3, there's not a lot to it. It's essential that your patient, client, user has good to reasonable upper body control. Otherwise, you can see that they will just slip through. So when you're risk assessing for this type of sling, then it is important that you understand their capabilities. And, you know, you can tell if they can sit up themselves and they've got good head support and control, then you can consider it. Carers love this, of course, because it gives them access to clothing, but unfortunately it won't meet the needs of some. But there are a few tips I can help you with to help lengthen the life of using this. Certainly the Silvalea Sling we have is slightly shaped differently. Some scalloping to the edge of the sling, inside edge, gives you a bit more access to clothing, which we'll see when I put it on Judith. The waist support has a waist support with a clunk click and a Velcro fastening. So we've got both. The Velcro's good, very good, as long as it's clean and it's not full of fluff. It's, you know, clogged up, it won't be effective. So ensure that you close it when it's not in use so that it's not catching on things and catching up fluff and stuff. The clunk click there is additional. But the other feature on this is the waistband is stitched quite far to the edges and the sides, so it actually gives a lot more support right around the body, to the sides here. Some toilet slings, the waist supports attached back here. That actually means there's a bit more play and a bit more movement. So this is, you know, a really good design to help with more support. So we can put it on, easy to get on because you're not getting it right down to the base. We're putting on, I'm just going to ask you to put it on, you know, often we're in a hurry, we need to get it on to get to the toilet. Leg sections have padding, they come round. We will connect the legs together through the loop at the bottom of straps there. Again, you know, just to keep them together, and then hook up. If we hook up here, you right? Just take the hoist down a little bit and then we're going on green. I'm going on a green loop here because the spreader bar, I don't want to be too close to Judith's head. So we're dropping it down a bit. So just take it up and just check. Okay. So we'll be able to see that we will get lots of access here for clothing. We turn Judith round compared to the others. You can see now how much easier it is to get to clothing if we need to do a hygiene transfer. It's still quite tricky to get clothing down, so we need to ensure that that the patient has loose clothing. Otherwise, it still will be a struggle. But we can see how it looks. We can also see how it looks if Judith loses a bit of tone. And this is what can happen. So you may have seen this. You may also have been reassured that that patient's still fine, but they're not. If this is going to happen, then we need to address it. There are a couple of tips. If we just take Judith down, I'm just going to share a couple of tips that will help. And there's 3 points to remember. So we'll just take it off. That was a small size. Judith's generally as small, as I've said. But the first thing is to think about a smaller size toilet sling. Try one size down. So we have got an extra small. So that would be my first suggestion, is try a smaller size. We've got to make sure it fits well, firmly, and it's not going to ride up. So let's put it on a bit better. So we've gone down a size. The next tip is to make sure you fit it at the waist. It is a waist support, not a chest support. So it needs to be waist level, under the bust, and fitted as firmly as possible. If it's riding up or it's fitted too high to start with, there's no, it's only going to go up and force the shoulders up. So fit firmly at the waist and make sure the waist support is tightened as firmly as possible. So the leg sections, again, we'll just put those 3, cross them over, and we'll attach again. Then go on the green, yep. So we've gone down a size, we fitted it low, the arms are on the outside, don't forget. So the next little tip is what happens normally is as the body then, the hoist takes up the slack, the body will naturally thin out. So then check that waistband, it may loosen off, and then just tighten it a bit. Easily done with this webbing strap. So we'll just go up a little bit, not too far, but check, and then just keep it a little bit, just to keep it in place. As I said, if it's riding up, there's a reason. It's too big or we haven't fitted it properly. So let's have a look now. Can you slump through it? Right, she's trying. But just by doing those few things, use a smaller style, fit it low, secure it top, firmly as you take up the slack, then you should be able to use this for a bit longer. Check that it's not biting in under the arms. You can get a couple of fingers underneath there. Some have padding under the arms, which people think I've got to have padding for comfort. But if it's fitted properly, you don't need the padding. It shouldn't bite up, it shouldn't ride up. So you just need to think about that. It's really important when looking at this style. We do have other options, and we are going to do a session on other toileting slings and solutions for variable tone, low tone. So have a look at the training prospectus if that's of interest to you. But a good popular style if used properly, but a worry if it's not used properly. So really be very, very careful when suggesting or recommending this style. Let me just check, see if Alice, have you got any questions on this one?
No questions on this one.
Excellent. Okay, so that's the toileting, hygiene, dressing, whatever name you call it. That's how the toileting sling looks. So the next style, so we're on to style 5 now, to bring in Thanks, Jude. A different hoist. I've got it on a mobile. So this is the long seat come recline. So it's a full supportive sling. I've got a sample here. This is a long seat. So this family of slings looks like this. So long seat, hammock, very oblong shape. This is a silver hammock shape, but you know, this sort of family, this sort of shape needs to be applied on the bed. So you need to either roll or introduce it with slide sheets to get this on. It's very difficult to put it on in a chair, as you can imagine, because it comes around and supports the bottom fully. So this is our, let me just take this up. It's the recline shape. We've got this one in our Superfine Plus fabric, which, because it's most popular in this fabric and most popular for amputee situations. As we can see, this model here that we've got here is an amputee situation with a through hip, quite high amputee on one side. And you can see how the sling then would support. It's got a little pommel strap in the middle. The pommel is helpful because it will lift that center area, and then the legs are more balanced with this, rather than if there's no pommel, the legs tend to roll in. So it's quite a nice shape to give that little lift in the middle, and it just connects through the leg tapes there. But full body, you can have the hip tape added. There's a provision for this on the sling as standard, but you would need to request the hip tape. This is one of the detachable ones that we looked at earlier, and it just feeds through, knots in, and then you hook it up and adjust it accordingly to get the tension needed. Don't forget, we need to make sure it picks up simultaneously with the legs there. But straightforward shape for a lot of situations, general transfers, also can be used for bathing. You've not got the divided leg section, so very popular for many situations, including amputees. So all type of amputees, you can use this shape. Again, we can add a head support or your chest strap. We can put an aperture in. We would have to, you know, put a hole in. So it's the skill of getting it in the right place when you apply it, but certainly it is possible. So you could have several, one for hygiene transfers and one for leave in, which this one can be left in for extended periods. So, you know, the option is there. So this is the Comfort Recline. Let me just check with Alice, see if there's any questions on that one.
No questions on this one, Mandy.
Okay, thank you. So the last one, hopefully you're still with me, and I've not lost you. We'll just swap these over. The last style in the family of 6 shapes is quite different because it goes on a different type of spreader bar. So this is a wishbone type. It may be that you don't come across this, so that means you can forget this style. You've only got 5 to think about. But this type of wishbone, it's a nice, lovely shape. It's very open. You haven't got the hoist, the spreader bar in your face, which is a benefit. But if you have this type, then we have to provide a sling that's got specific clips on. So this is a clip that locks on to the stud of the hoist. And this is our de-answer clip, which is a universal clip that will lock onto the hoist. But the sling shape is very specific. So if you look at your poster, you can see that this particular shape always will have a head support, and it's got slightly smaller legs. So the sling is specific for this hoist because the leg sections come through and hook up onto the spreader bar here, rather than coming up to go up to the hoist above. So consequently, the legs on that sling will certainly be a shorter one. Very simple. It's a very popular hoist shape within hospitals. Very simple for carers, of course, because you've only got to clip on shoulder and leg. There's no confusion with all the different options. But it does have its limitations with certain sort of conditions. So think about all your challenging, your asymmetrical shapes. You can't adjust it. You can't add the nice deluxe leg shape that will help with supporting the femur. You can't add hip tapes. So it does limit certainly with certain complex situations. But that we call this the high easy shape. And certainly on the poster you'll see the differences compared to the other styles. I think that's it. Hopefully it's been informative and that you can then transfer some of the information to your scenarios. If you're still confused about certain things, please let us know. We do have a very good website now. All of the slings are on there and you can then look at the information regarding each style. There's some very good data sheets specific to each shape with the sizing guides, as I've said, and instruction video. So certainly, it's a very good website now. Lots of things you can download. But we've also got a very useful sling selector. So I don't know if Alice, you can bring up our sling selector. So this reflects the website and it's all the slings we do. Certainly, and they're laid out in their families. So as I've explained, for example, line 1 are all the general purpose standard shape styles. And line 2 are all the deluxes. So there are other versions, which we will cover in other sessions. But just to show you, if you're wanting to make a selection, we can let you have this poster and it will help you then decide on a complete selection of slings that will meet the needs of all your scenarios. If you could just pan out a little bit, please, Alice, so that we can see there's extra products like the stand aids, harnesses. There's a selection of popular pediatric slings, etc. So it's a really useful poster. We're very happy to send this to you, although we do ask respectfully if you would fill in a little questionnaire so that then we can send this afterwards. This will entitle you to go into a draw. I think it's is it £100 Amazon voucher, which is draw
Amazon voucher.
So if you would be kind enough just to give us feedback, it's really important. We need to know whether we're on the right track with this training and whether it's been helpful and how we can improve things. So please, if you can come back to me, please, Alice.
Yep,
just finally, thank you very much all for your time. We're very grateful for your support. We're always here. We've got a really good support team. Alice is always on hand to do e-assessments, which she can link in like this and talk about individual situations, often so much quicker than waiting for an appointment. So please, do contact us if you need help. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for Judith for helping, and for James for your input, and Alice for controlling the session. But thank you very much, guys, and I do look forward to seeing you again in the future.